Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. So first up for T&D today, we have the mug, the mug that is stat blocked as a mug, that's it. I thought I was gonna have something else to say with that one, but I don't. And inside of it today, we have some of the Wildberry Zinger from Celestial Seasonings. It's kind of late, and I wanted something fruity, so this is what I got. It's very good. Again, if you like fruity teas, it's a good choice. I highly recommend it. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about today is the third-party book. God, words are failing me right now, which is not a great way to start this recording, but that's not really the point. We're here to talk about a third-party book today because it is Thursday, which means that it is third-party Thursday, as it were. And today, we're talking about a book that I actually pretty much just got, and I haven't actually even had the chance to finish reading cover to cover yet. I did a full skim of it, and then I started reading stuff in it. I haven't finished it yet, but I am adoring it as I'm going here, and so I really, really wanted to talk about it as soon as possible. We are talking today about Remarkable Cults and Their Followers. This book is by Lore Smith. That's Smyth. This book is, it's exactly what it says it is. It is a book about cults and their followers. And it's really, really cool and really just so well done. My fiance has opened this book and read it a little bit too, and I was talking to her about it because she doesn't always open the books that I just leave sitting out. But I was talking to her about it, and I was like, yeah, third-party books, I usually really enjoy them, but sometimes they're just like really good, and this is one of those for me so far, and I get the feeling it's going to continue to be one of those, because it's so well done. So let's take a look at what's inside of it, shall we? First off, if you have read any of the other Lore Smith books, I believe it follows a pretty similar sort of structure to that. I have not read those. In fact, I thought this was the first one, and then I was informed that it's simply not. It just is not. They have two other ones before this one, and they have one that I think just wrapped Kickstarter, or is wrapping Kickstarter like today, or something like that. It's called Remarkable Guilds. See if it's still live on Kickstarter when you see this, because honestly, I do not remember what day it was going to be wrapping. Anyway, what is inside of this book, you might ask? Let's consult the back cover, our favorite place to consult when we have a question about what's inside of a book. This book contains 10 pre-written cults with members, ranks, and quest hooks. That is important. We are going to talk about all of those things in just a minute here. 10 full-color cult stronghold maps. One map for each one of those things. They are really, really well done. They are beautiful maps. Over 60 devilish system-neutral magic item ideas. Also really, really cool, all the ones that I've seen so far. Random generation tables for cult types, leaders, and more. Gotta love a good table. Inspirational and easy to use role-playing ideas. I mean, just the text of the book is that enough for me usually. It's interesting that they're advertising it on the back, but whatever. And finally, gameplay options for player-operated organizations, which I think is a really, really cool addition to this thing, because that is one of those things that you can write a book about NPC cults, and then you send it out, and then the DMs get it, and they're like, oh man, I need to engineer one of these for my players. That's actually in here. You can, they have rules and guides and stuff to help you actually write that, if that is the direction that your players end up wanting to go with it. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what is actually inside of this book. Again, just phenomenal content from everything that I've read on it so far. This is approximately 165 pages long. It's a pretty concise, I guess, book when compared to some of the other ones that I do. Usually I end up sitting around 200 pages with some of these, but this one is a little bit shorter, but it is got plenty of stuff in it to make up for that. As it mentioned, it has 10 pre-built cults. That is what you start with in this book. They do have like an intro section, but it's 4 pages long. You get to the cults pretty quick. There are 10 of them in here. They have background information for each of them. It has sort of like a power hierarchy, several important NPCs within it, the rankings within that same cult, notable items within that organization, offerings that organization might be interested in or utilizing, as well as some rumors and secrets associated with each one of them. From there is the Bringing Your Cults to Life section, where they talk about the wealth and resources of the cult, the influence range, I guess, the general disposition and orientation of the cult following that, and some of the services that they might be providing. There are some quote-unquote forbidden training options in there, ways to build and talk about your own ranks and advancements, with then some examples sort of for like general terms in terms of like building out your structure, and then maybe going in and renaming things later. Some mission examples so that you can sort of build off of that. How you go up through the ranks of said cults and the different signs and symbols associated with the cults that you are creating. Which rolls us straightforward, essentially, into creating your own cults, where it gives you a much more detailed sort of breakdown of like the different organization types that you could be working with, and obviously you can work with whatever you want, but those are just some good examples of them. There is the size and wealth aspect of it, again going back to the cult reach, cult influence, and the general sort of ability for them to affect the world around them, I guess, because a small cult with no real wealth to them isn't going to be able to do nearly as much as like a crime syndicate type deal. Then there's the backstory and the members associated with the cult as you go through it, and the followers, obviously, that make up the cult now. From there, we jump forward into the player-operated cults, and sort of how you can help facilitate your players creating their own cult within game. There are things like the planning phase, key members that they need to create, the building, and by create I mean find, the building phase of said cult, the operating phase of that cult, and how they can eventually sort of like tie the ribbon on the cult at the end of the game. Then appendices, we've got creating infernal items, we've got some relics, and then we have our headquarter maps. So a lot of really awesome stuff in this book. Something we are going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about one of these cults. I feel like it's important to mention or note or whatever that I feel that they use the word cult a little loosely in this book, just like a smidge. Because really, when they say cult, they mean organization that does not necessarily follow the law. Pretty much. That's kind of where they go with that. But it still is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at... I don't know. Let's take a look at the Scarlet Fleet, because that's a fun one. So, the Scarlet Fleet. If you're watching this, go ahead and take a look at this front page here. This little box banner thingy up in the corner here is going to be sort of like your crash course information on a lot of it. As well as, obviously, some gorgeous art. So, there are 4 different things listed in here that are rated on a scale, and then a couple of different lists that are in there. So, the 4 different things are wealth, resources, defense, and influence. In terms of the Scarlet Fleet, wealth is a 5 out of 5. Resources, also a 5 out of 5. Defense is a 3 out of 5. And influence is a 4 out of 5. The first list that they have is the services. They have smuggling, shipbuilding, and abduction. Disfavored, things they don't like. Clerics, lycanthropes, and elves. Then favored, things they do like. Artificers, rogues, fighters, vampires, and sailors. If you have not been able to put it together at this point, the Scarlet Fleet is essentially a shipbuilding vampire cult. I don't really know a better way to put that, because that's really what they do. So on this first page here, you get a little bit of sort of like flavor text and vague backstory about what's going on here. As you are going through here, you do begin to find that this is really kind of like a crime family kind of thing, almost, that operates a shipping organization. But the crime family is, in fact, vampires. On the second page here, you have an example NPC here. You've got Aurel Saltari, age 96, race vampire, previously human, occupation admiral of the Scarlet Fleet. Specialties are sailing, negotiation, and dueling. So in this section here, it's just a little sidebar, and by a little sidebar, I mean it's a column that takes up the entire side of the page. It gives you some background sort of information on this NPC in particular. Then there is a couple of important details in here. You've got My Own Blood, which is a piece on Aurel's younger brother. And then there is a Matter of Honor, wherein they talk about a pirate captain called Moon Eye calling a bounty in on Aurel's head. So they got offended and then placed an equally large bounty on the pirate, because why not? And then at the very bottom, there's like a combat almost feature where they talk about Vampiric Fury, where they become faster if they hit people, essentially. Going into the next section, we have leaders and followers, where they, again, give several examples of different NPCs that you could find in there, as well as a Scarlet Fleet ranks section, where they run through all of the different ranks on this. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ranks within this organization, ranging all the way from the bottom at associate. Going up the scale here, we then have mate, lieutenant, merchant, captain, treasurer, vice admiral, admiral, and ancestor. Ancestor obviously being the top. It is interesting because this one actually does have a couple of specifics associated with it, because it is a vampire-based thing. Vampires, or anybody, is allowed to be several of these. However, most of these ranks are reserved for vampires only, and that includes all 5, it looks like, of the top ones and a couple of the lower level ones, which means that, like, vampires need to get in on the ground floor as well. They don't just, like, become a vampire and then immediately jump to the top, which is really cool and actually very interesting. And then after all of that, we have our rumors and secrets section, which is where you get your quest hook ideas. This one has Blood in the Water, The Scholar's Escape, Blood of Your Blood, and Order of Secession, which is cool. I mean, honestly, it's cool. All of these are pretty well thought out, and they are open-ended enough to where you are going to need to take them and, like, create something with them, but it gives you, like, a good jumping off point for just an adventure hook. Then there is a section called Underhanded Offerings. It is their services that they offer. They offer smuggling, passage/travel, shipbuilding, and tracking and abduction. Obviously, those all have different price points, and they give good examples of those price points within each of those sections. Following that, we have Bloodstained items, which are items that are unique to the Scarlet Fleet and its members. And in this one in particular, they have stuff going all the way from uncommon up to very rare. Some of the other ones do have common to legendary items, or in the book there are common all the way up to legendary items. But each different individual organization will have their own set of them. And that is the end of the Scarlet Fleet section. It's a concise, sort of like densely packed overview section of each of their individual things and how each of them work. but it is a really, really well put together and really, really well written section, and it helps fill in a lot of blanks to the point where you could just take that and toss it into a game world. And that's how those are designed. They are designed to be setting neutral. All 10 of the cults in here, I've read 8 of them at this point. All 8 of them that I've read, and I assume the last 2 as well, are designed to be something that you could feasibly just go, okay, we're going to go with that now. I just mimed opening a book that I am holding in my hand, and I don't know why. But feasibly, you could just take them and throw them directly into your game. No prep required. And then you just need to improv based on the information in this book. Which is not a terrible way to do it, but, you know, I know that's not everybody's bag, but I like doing that kind of thing, too. So, yeah. Remarkable Cults and Their Followers. Check it out. It's a really, really awesome book. I highly, highly recommend it. Especially if you want to have these kind of like shadier organizations in your game. And again, see if their Remarkable Guilds Kickstarter is still live, because that's a good one. I back that one. I'm excited about that. So that is that on that book, which brings us around to the shows that we have today. It is, of course, Thursday, which means that we have some of the big ones today. We have Critical Role, obviously, Authors and Dragons, NADPOD, and LGBT D&D. Please go check those out, and please, don't forget, guys, let them know that I sent you, because, again, one day it'll be funny to me that somebody mentions it to me. I don't know that that's ever really going to happen, but maybe it will. I think it will be hilarious when it does. Well, that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming one of my patrons, go ahead and check the link in the description of this episode. It'll take you right to my Patreon. And you will be able to help shape this show and inspire episodes like tomorrow's episode. Plus, your support is what makes it possible for me to talk about so many books, both officially published ones and third-party ones like this. So please, go check it out. I really do appreciate it. But that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today, which means that I need you guys to not forget. Drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.